Live from the Below the Yellow Line studio, it's the Below the Yellow Line podcast.
Hello everybody, and welcome back to the Below the Yellow Line podcast. Another guest on tap today, so Mason, if you would, you can go ahead and introduce yourself.
How's it going, everybody? My name is Mason Maggio. I'm a driver in the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series and the NASCAR Xfinity Series. So competing on a part-time basis, but enjoying every moment of it.
Glad you are enjoying every moment of it. Jumping right in here, I've interviewed a lot of young drivers on the show recently. I just realized that. I don't think I've interviewed anybody over 30. It's really cool to interview with some of the youth movement, I guess, could be called. But when did you know that you first kind of wanted to drive a race car at any type of professional level?
Yeah, so, I kind of fell into racing on accident, funny enough. So, grew up kind of watching the races on Sunday with my family, but, being a kid with a short attention span that wouldn't last the whole race. But, eventually I hopped into a go-kart just to have some fun with some friends, just with some rental go-kart stuff, and ended up falling in love with it and really, really enjoyed the experience. And kept asking my dad to go back, and we'd go back just about every other weekend. Then my dad, I thought about it for like maybe a hobby standpoint, but when I really decided, I want to try to take it to a professional level and really try to get to the NASCAR level, was when my dad took me to the Daytona 500 in 2017 when Kurt Busch won it. So that was big for me. And I remember leaving, and I told my dad, I was like, I want to go do what they did, and we should try to figure out a way to do it. And he was fully supportive of it. And lo and behold, here we are about 6-7 years later.
It's awesome. It's awesome. I hope your attention span has gotten a little bit better, because the races do take a little bit sometimes. But, as long as you're not falling asleep in there, I think you're doing all right. You talked
we're
about
chugging along, man. We're chugging along.
That 2017 Daytona 500 kind of set things off for you, but did you have any big heroes in racing growing up? Did you have any drivers or crew chiefs or anybody that you kind of looked up to and said, I want to be like them?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even though I wouldn't watch all the races when I was a little kid, I still knew a lot of the drivers, right? Like Jeff Gordon, Jimmie Johnson, Dale Earnhardt Jr., Casey Kane, big guys like that. Jeff Gordon was always kind of my idol growing up. I mean, everybody knows the iconic DuPont red and blue flamed paint scheme, and that was always a paint scheme that always stuck out to me. I got a Jeff Gordon diecast with that same paint scheme. Yeah, I still have it to this day, and it's always been a car that I just loved looking at. It was like eye candy for 7-8-year-old me. And Dale Earnhardt Jr. was always a guy that was pretty iconic with the Budweiser paint scheme, and things like that always stuck out to me was the paint schemes in the early 2000s from when NASCAR was running. So I'd say Jeff Gordon was probably my biggest one. Dale Earnhardt Jr. was another one, but I'd say those are the two that kind of stick out to me the most.
Yeah, that's great. Dale Jr. always one of my favorites, and Jeff Gordon's cars, you're right, that Rainbow Warrior DuPont schemes, always eye candy, one of the most iconic schemes in history for sure. You made your truck series, or made some truck series starts last year, you made some this year, but you made your Xfinity series debut this year. Just kind of talk about how that process kind of got started and how cool it was to be out there with the big guys in NASCAR's second tier series.
Yeah, so that was very much a last-minute opportunity. I was originally supposed to do Vegas, but obviously we fell only 500ths short of making the field, which was a tough one to swallow still to this day. But regardless, it's a learning experience. It's something that I was able to take away and try to understand and minimize mistakes or capitalize on little things that maybe I didn't pay attention to. But going back to Richmond, kind of a last minute opportunity. Got the call literally that week of the race to go do it. I mean, we knew the circumstances going into it, like, hey, we're a little bit lower in points, we're going to have to qualify in, but thankfully I had experience at Richmond in the truck. So, was able to kind of use that to my advantage to an extent. Thankfully we made the race due to rain. Kind of figured it out as the race went on. And, we had a little bit of a hiccup with some pit stop strategy, but regardless, just being out there, knowing, hey, we can run out there, complete all the laps, race against the guys that we need to be racing with. That was huge for me, and to come across the line and be able to get an okay result for my first Xfinity Series race was a success in itself, especially with how the year started off for this season. So take it and strive. Learned a lot, and was able to take the experience from that and move it into future races.
Yeah, it's always great when you see guys like yourself and Timmy Hill. There's some other guys that have driven from MBM, but all the guys that kind of drive for these smaller teams. It's always so cool for me to see them, even when it is on rain, make the field. That's something that people don't talk about enough. Is those guys like you that are they're scrapping for every bit, trying to make the field, and then going out there and running pretty competitively. I mean, relatively, you did pretty well for a debut, especially at a track like Richmond that's so so slick and everything. So great to see you make your debut there. We just had a new Hall of Fame class recently, and there's been a lot over the course of NASCAR's history now. But have there been any big mentors for you in your career?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd say so. Kind of entering into NASCAR last year, I leaned on the fair share of people. Garrett Smithley is a guy that I've kind of relied on for a good bit, and a guy that I'm funny enough racing nowadays. So, I got to know him through the RWR/E33 motorsports deal that I had last year running in the Carolina Pro Series, and got to really get to meet and understand Garrett from that perspective. So he was a guy that I've leaned on. Josh Rayom has been a guy that I've leaned on a lot. We have a great relationship, and I've been fortunate enough to drive for him on several different occasions, and have been able to have some good runs with him and have some memories there. So Josh is another guy that I've leaned on without a doubt. Bobby Daughter, obviously a veteran of the sport, both as a driver and as a team owner. He's a guy that I've leaned off of for a good portion of stuff. Jason Miller, who was my crew chief this year on the 08 car. He's a guy that I've relied off of too. So there's a lot of people that I've relied off of in the sport. JR Courage is another one. He's the owner of E33 Motorsports, but he was the former general manager at Rick Ware for a couple of years ago. So there's a lot of guys that I've leaned off of for advice and experience. It's a long list, and it'd be a long segment if I got into every person that I've talked with. But there's a lot of people that have helped me, and I'm grateful for them.
Yeah, it takes a village, not just to run a team, but to help young drivers like you get up through the ranks, and clearly they've worked, because you're putting together a solid body of work even as young as you are. There's been a lot of moments that I could kind of point out, and I've asked some other guys that I've interviewed this too in recent days, and it's funny, they've all had vastly different answers, because some of them have been from different generations of being a fan. But if you had to pick through the 75 years of history of our sport, what would you say is your favorite moment in NASCAR history?
That's a really good question. I wish I had a straight answer for you. And there's a lot of really good moments, in my opinion, that stick out to me. I'd say probably the one that sticks out to me the most, and I was literally watching it yesterday, was when Dale Jr. won the Pepsi 400 in 2001, I believe. So I'd say that was a really big moment for not just the sport, but for a lot of people out there. That was a really tough period of time, obviously, just that year as a whole. So I'd say that's the moment that sticks out to me, and it's ironic because I wasn't even around at the time when that happened. I'd say that one sticks out to me because it, like I said, it healed a lot of people, and it was really cool for a lot of people that did get to witness it. And it's like I said, even though I wasn't around at that time, it's still, looking back at it, realizing how much it meant to everybody is something really, really special, even to this day.
Yeah, we had our driver Landon Lewis on the show a couple weeks ago, and he's a big Kevin Harvick fan, and he talked about the Atlanta race that Kevin won. So those two races in 2001, that season, it was tough. That year was tough as a whole, but had a lot of great moments like that where you're kind of able to lift your head up, and I'll say, hey, there's still a lot of good left in this sport. I know there's a lot. We were just talking about your favorite moment in history, and we talked about your debut a little bit. But what I'm going to mention next would be probably top all of those, at least in the moment. What would your what would your ideal situation be to win your first race? Who would you pass? What track? How dramatic would it be? Just kind of what would your ideal first win storybook scenario kind of be?
Oh man. Man, that's an interesting one. So, I mean, Daytona, I think, would definitely be it. Daytona means a lot to me. That was the race that inspired me to go do what I'm doing now, and it's Daytona is still something that I'm chasing after, trying to put together. To try to hopefully go do and, in a sense, put myself in this situation. I'd say, just being up there in the mix and being there when it matters to, capitalize on a good run, whether that be a photo finish or a couple of guys get tangled up in front of me and I slide in for the win somehow, some way. And, with Daytona, there's so many unknowns, right? So, it could go either or, but as long as I'm across that finish line first, that's all that matters to me. So, Daytona is definitely top of my list for sure to hopefully get a win. And who knows, that could or could not happen. I don't know. Only one way to find out is to be on that grid when it matters.
Exactly. Keep cranking the engine, keep going out there, because you never know what's going to happen, especially at Daytona. I don't know if this does the same thing to you as it does to me. The one thing, though, when people talk about NASCAR that always kind of irks me, that always kind of makes me frustrated, is when they say that drivers, pit crew members aren't athletes. And this question, I promise, does tie into that. But they are. I mean, drivers, pit crew members, extremely, extremely conditioned. But is there one guy in the garage area that you would least like to get in a fight with? That would just... he's a threat to everybody. He's the one guy that nobody in the garage wants to get mixed up with.
That is a really good question. I don't have enough beef with guys in the garage area yet to really put that to the test. Yeah, thankfully. But no, I mean, there's a lot of guys that I definitely wouldn't want to make mad. I think Matt Crafton's a pretty tough customer. Thankfully, I think I've gotten his respect, but I've never interacted with him. But a few times that, for instance, he's come to lap me, I've never had any issues with him. So, I definitely don't want to tick off the veteran drivers, right? Because obviously they have a lot of experience and a lot to rely off of, as far as just experience goes and success compared to obviously where I'm at, right? So. And their expectations are a lot different to mine too. So, those are the kind of guys that I don't want to tick off. And, at the end of the day, it's just about respect and, giving and taking. So there's a couple guys that I definitely wouldn't mess with, but, I don't have a solid answer, unfortunately, because like I said, I haven't gotten in enough scraps yet, and I hope it comes later than sooner. So, but just gotta kind of stay in my line, go after the expectations that I have with the equipment that I'm in, and kind of go from there.
Yeah, Matt Crafton is he's scary. He's older, but he is still very scary. You talk about that veteran presence, and sometimes we mean that in a in a helping way, but then other times we say veteran presence, and it means they are going to come after you, especially if you're a younger driver and you make them mad. So it's best to definitely steer clear of them if possible. So you talked about Daytona really having a big impact on you personally, but from a racing perspective, what would you say is your favorite track that you've run so far and your least favorite track that you've run so far?
Yeah, I mean, I think Kansas is definitely one of my favorite racetracks, at least in the truck. I haven't been there in an Xfinity car yet, but in the truck, it's just so much fun. Being able to run multiple lanes, using the aero to your advantage. I've always had fun there in the two races that I've had, and it also has a special place in my heart because it was my first ever mile and a half that I raced at. So that's big in itself. I'd say that would be my favorite racetrack. Hoping to go back there within, I think, next month is when the race is. So hoping to get back in the truck for that one. Been thankful to have some great partners for that one, and that love Kansas and that are based out of Kansas. So that's definitely always going to be circled on my calendar for as long as I have a career in NASCAR. I'd say my least favorite track. It's a tough one. I mean, Richmond, I've got a love-hate relationship with because I think I could have good runs there if I just have all the pieces of the puzzle fall into my favor, right? But yet then again, everybody else is going to say that. So, man, I'd say I don't know. Portland was really tough. I mean, I like road course racing, but Portland, for whatever reason, it clicked, as the weekend went on, but I don't think I truly figured it out. And maybe I'm being a little bit too pushy on it. I don't know. But I'd say Portland is kind of down towards the bottom. Just I think I need a little bit more experience there. But as of right now, it's kind of at the bottom.
Tough racetrack for sure. So, Mason, you know your schedule a lot better than I do. So if you wouldn't mind telling everybody where, or at least where you think your next race is, and if you want to thank any of your sponsors, you can go ahead and do that.
Yeah, absolutely. So for me, I don't really have a set schedule. A lot of my stuff has been planned week by week, but as of right now, Kansas, like I just mentioned, is definitely on the schedule to try to go do. I think I got Homestead. That's been funny enough. I had a conversation about it today. So Homestead's definitely on the list. That's a home game for me. And then I think I might have one or two other races this year. I don't know exactly what they are, but I'm currently trying to put the pieces of the puzzle together for all that. And, just try to run as many races as I possibly can heading for the remainder of this year and hopefully into next year too. So, but obviously can't do it without my amazing partners that I've been fortunate enough to work with this year. So HMY Yacht Sales, Rock Hill Ace Hardware, Voodoo Bayou, and Professional AG Services, Show Me Real Estate, Ranch 4D. We've had some new partners this past weekend as well, and looking forward to working with them a little bit more this year with Phoenix HVAC and Red Coach Donuts and all the partners we've been able to work with from there. So, always open to new partners as well. So continuing to work towards that and hopefully continue to add more to my schedule. So, but yeah, appreciate all our partners for their support and giving us the opportunity to do what I've been able to do this year. So it's been a pleasure working with all of them and looking forward to carrying the successes that we've had from this year heading into 2024.
Absolutely. Without sponsors, we couldn't do it. So they really help drive the sport. Well, thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule to come on the show. We really appreciate it. And we'll be looking out for you at Kansas and Homestead and hopefully as many races as you can run this year. So we wish you the best of luck for the rest of the season.
Awesome. Thanks, Sam. I appreciate it.